Is the SU-27SM going to be OP, overpowered? Let's talk a little bit about it. Hello guys, once again it's Matt. Thank you all the members and patrons. Make sure to subscribe, and yes guys, the SU-27SM is coming to the game. We shall see it in some sort of dev server very soon, to be honest, I'm guessing. And yeah guys, the question is always asked when these type of thing happen. Is this aircraft going to break the game a little bit? So I am probably going to do like two kind of sections of this video. The first one would be how will the SU-27 actually be like? You know, how can we expect it to actually fly in the meta? And the second video that I'm going to do probably tomorrow is going to be, is the F-15C enough to counter it? So you can already kind of guess and try to answer those questions in the description or in the comments, right? But so what is the SU-27? What is the aircraft that can actually be the best aircraft in the game and a real step up from the original SU-27s? Well, as I said in the video of the actual dev blog, the SM is basically a midlife upgrade for the normal SU-27 that were already produced, right? And included a lot of things, but more internally, right? All the flaws that the SU-27S that we have in the game had were basically kind of overcome on the SM. That's pretty much what it is. So included new multifunction displays, for example, improvements over in the navigation system, a new fire control system, better radar, better electrical optical sighting system, you know, the IRST, a more advanced mission computer. So all the insides of the aircraft were changed, but it's still the same aircraft, right? But those insides made the aircraft be a lot better. So for example, it was added to the radar the synthetic aperture terrain mapping modes and detection of maritime targets. So it means basically that the original SU-27s, the main problem with them is that they were more of an interceptor or high altitude escort aircraft. That was kind of what the aircraft was. It was, of course, a fighter, but the objective in the Soviet Air Force was that the aircraft was a heavy fighter, like an F-15, right? So there was no real reason, especially with the doctrine of the Soviets that spent a lot of money actually building different aircraft for different purposes, to have air-to-ground or great air-to-ground capabilities on the SU-27. That was probably the main problem with it, of course. So you can guess that, of course, in the air-to-ground role, it has many new things, like the KH-29, the KH-31, laser-guided bombs even, and some other things. So this would be the main focus that the aircraft actually filled that the SU-27S couldn't in the Soviet Air Force. And why did they do that? Well, that's the thing. The SU-27SM and the Su-35 and the MiG-29, everything like that, they kind of became something else during Russian times instead of Soviet times. Why is that? Well, mainly due to economic reasons. They try to bring everything into one aircraft, you know. To be honest, everybody was kind of doing that, but in the Cold War, the bigger nations like the US and the Soviet Union, and even China to a certain extent, the UK to a certain extent, and some others, they were trying to have one aircraft to each type of mission, right? But eventually, most countries were trying to, you know, have only one aircraft that can do it all, a fully multi-role aircraft. And when the Russian economy was not great after the Soviet Union fell, you know, they had to make a choice of, if they were going to maintain a modern air force, they had to cut cost, right? And one of the costs was to basically have multiple aircraft. Instead of that, they upgraded the existing Su-27s to do objectives that other aircraft were going to do. That's pretty much what the SM did. But of course, that was not only it. If they wanted a new aircraft, but still using the same old platform and literally the same old aircraft, but just upgraded them, they had to include better systems for air-to-air to defend themselves. So the first system was the late Soviet development of the R-77 that eventually got its way into Russian service, and of course some other minor things that really changed and made these aircraft a really 21st century 4th generation aircraft, right? So not only a new missile, a new type of missile that everybody started using with the Fox 3 R-77, but also the Pastel RWR, some better, but I cannot pronounce this, Sorbitsaya wingtip jamming pods were replaced to the Kibini versions of it, and upgraded engines to some of these SMs, and even others. There was, like, for example, the SM2, SM3 versions with better engines, better radars even. But of course, this is the first variant, right, of the modernization. So this aircraft was basically that. And how can it be OP if it's basically the same aircraft with some minor upgrades? That's the thing that I was talking about before. The upgrades that these aircraft actually got made every single flaw that the SU-27 that we have in the game kind of non-existent, and it made the aircraft much better because of that. So every aircraft has its problems, of course, but if you tackle them all, even when there is some problems, the problems will be small. So the SU-27, to be honest, it didn't have many problems. It was an aircraft that was complete. It has some, you could say that it has some, performance issues in some systems and stuff, but in general, it was one of the best aircraft in the world at the time that it was introduced. And you can see that in the game. It is, in my opinion, the best aircraft, the most powerful aircraft in the game in air-to-air combat. It can deal with any target, win a dogfight against any target, deal with it in a BVR situation, beyond visual range. It has, of course, it's not the greatest radar ever, but for the time it was enough to fire the R-27ERs for the maximum range that those missiles can do. And it can still, do well. It can still have enough fuel to do long distance flights. It can still be fast accelerating enough. It's not heavy. It's heavier than a MiG-29, but it's not heavier in the sense of it's not too much that it cannot do a point defense. So it's an aircraft that can do anything inside a battlefield already. So imagine this aircraft that is considered by many being the best aircraft in the game, now receiving the R-77 and air-to-ground equipment and a better RWR and a better radar and everything like that. It kind of scares me a little bit. But at the same time, there's not really a way for us to actually talk about these, and I'm gonna bridge the gap to the videos that I'm going to do tomorrow, probably on the F-15, a little bit, because we don't know how the performance of other aircraft will be like. If the SM is added right now, without an R-77, it would be basically the same as the SU-27S. That's it, in the air-to-air combat. Of course, it would be better in the ground, but for everything else, it would be basically what the SU-27 is right now. Of course, better radar, better RWR, but at the end of the day, for gameplay-wise, it would be pretty much the same. So the pinnacle here, the main point is the R-77. And guess what, guys? Everybody else is getting on a Fox 3 missile as well. So, although, yes, I do think the SU-27 SM will be probably the best aircraft in the game. Probably. There are still some questions to whether this aircraft is on the podium and not really on the top step, because the Gripen will receive Fox 3s, and that is a scary aircraft with Fox 3s. The F-15 will get better and receive Fox 3s. Probably the F-16s that can do very well, depending on the version that they get, can receive the Fox 3s as well. So, multiple unknowns, and all of these aircraft are going to be on par with the SU-27 that we have in the game, and with the upgrades that the SM kind of has as well. So it's, although I still believe that it is going to be one of the best aircraft in the game, we have to wait to see how it performs against the other ones. The one thing that I know this aircraft will have above every other aircraft in the game for now is the amount of missiles. No other aircraft for sure, for now, I think we'll have more missiles than the SM. I really doubt it, at least. So 10 missiles will be the main focus on this aircraft. 4 R-77s with 2 R-27ETs and 4 R-73s. I mean, nothing can beat the amount of time that you can actually be in a battle and still remain competitive with all of those missiles. So that's where I think the Su-27s differentiate themselves from the other aircraft. But again, we still have to wait. So let me know in the comments if you think the Su-27 will, the new Su-27, right, the SM will be OP or not. And yeah, let's get the discussion going, because I think things are going to wrap it up very quickly in this weekend maybe. So I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe and